The story of Africa's transformation in the 21st century is being written not in boardrooms in Washington or Paris, but on the ground, where visionary leaders are taking daring steps to redefine the continent's future. Among these leaders is Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, a figure who has repeatedly captured global attention for his bold defiance of Western dominance and his relentless pursuit of self-reliance for his people. His latest project, the construction of the world's largest beach hotel in Africa, has sent shockwaves through international circles, not simply because of its scale, but because of what it represents. It is more than a luxury development. It is a declaration of intent. It is a statement that Africa will no longer be content with the crumbs of global tourism and investment, but will take its rightful place as a hub of prosperity and attraction. When news broke that Ibrahim Traoré had greenlit and launched construction of a beach hotel that surpasses anything the world has seen before, disbelief and curiosity spread instantly. Could Burkina Faso, a landlocked country, be the name behind the boldest tourism infrastructure project in Africa? The answer lies in how Traoré has strategically partnered with coastal neighbors, aligning Burkina Faso's economic ambitions with West Africa's untapped potential. This is not simply about building a hotel, but about creating a continental asset, a flagship that changes the perception of Africa from a continent of crisis to one of unparalleled opportunity. To understand the gravity of this project, one must consider how global tourism has traditionally been controlled. The Caribbean islands, Mediterranean coasts, and Southeast Asian resorts have long dominated luxury tourism. Africa, despite its natural beauty and cultural richness, has often been sidelined, with only a handful of locations like Mauritius, Seychelles, or Morocco achieving global recognition. By announcing a project that eclipses even the most iconic beach resorts, Traoré challenges that imbalance head-on. He is essentially saying to the world, Africa is not a secondary destination. It is the future of tourism, and it will be done on African terms. The hotel itself is envisioned as a marvel of modern design blended with African heritage. Spanning miles of pristine coastline, it will feature not only thousands of luxury suites, but also conference halls, research centers, and cultural hubs designed to highlight African art, music, and innovation. The scale is such that it will employ tens of thousands of Africans directly and indirectly, creating a ripple effect across multiple economies. Architects from Africa are leading the design, ensuring that this project is not a carbon copy of Western resorts, but a uniquely African expression of luxury and resilience. The use of local materials, renewable energy, and community-driven supply chains makes it not only the biggest beach hotel, but also among the most sustainable ever attempted. What truly stunned the world was the financing model. Instead of relying on loans from Western-dominated institutions like the IMF or World Bank, Traoré turned to a coalition of African sovereign wealth funds, diaspora investors, and strategic partnerships with non-Western allies. China, Russia, and Middle Eastern states offered construction expertise and investment, but the ownership remains firmly in African hands. This approach denies Western financial institutions the opportunity to trap yet another African nation in debt, while simultaneously sending a message that Africa can mobilize resources for its own grand projects. Western governments, particularly France and the United States, quickly recognized the geopolitical implications. A project of this scale represents more than an economic shift. It signals a cultural and psychological transformation. Tourism has long been a mechanism for soft power, shaping narratives about who holds prestige and who provides leisure to the world. By creating the largest beach hotel on the planet, Traoré shifts that narrative toward Africa. Suddenly, wealthy travelers from Europe, Asia, and the Americas will not only spend their money in Africa, but also recognize Africa as a place of aspiration rather than desperation. For Western powers accustomed to defining Africa as dependent, this is nothing short of a shock. Media coverage in Europe reflected a mix of skepticism and alarm. Analysts questioned whether Burkina Faso and its allies had the expertise to execute such a project. Others worried about the loss of Western influence as African nations turn eastward for partnerships. Behind the criticism, however, lies the recognition that Africa's trajectory under leaders like Traoré is increasingly beyond Western control. This terrifies policymakers who for centuries have relied on Africa's dependency as a cornerstone of their global dominance. The impact on local communities cannot be overstated. Unlike many Western-backed mega-projects that displace populations, Traoré has made it clear that this development will integrate local fishermen, artisans, and workers into the economic fabric of the hotel. Training programs are already being rolled out to prepare young Africans for roles in hospitality management, engineering, and cultural preservation. The hotel is not just being built for foreign tourists, it is being designed as a place where Africans themselves can celebrate their continent's achievements. One of the most striking aspects of Traoré's initiative is how it connects to his broader philosophy of African sovereignty. For him, the beach hotel is not an isolated venture, but part of a wider strategy to break free from structures that have historically constrained Africa. Just as he has pushed for alternatives to the CFA franc and resisted Western military interventions, he now reclaims Africa's tourism industry as a strategic resource. By investing in luxury infrastructure, Traoré ensures that Africa no longer exports its beauty for cheap while importing expensive Western narratives about leisure. Instead, Africa becomes the architect of its own hospitality and image. Globally, the timing of the project could not be more significant. With climate change threatening traditional tourist hotspots, Africa's relatively untouched coastlines are set to become increasingly valuable. Rising temperatures make certain regions less attractive for tourism, while Africa's vast landscapes and beaches remain pristine and adaptable. By moving early, Traoré positions Africa not only as a competitor, but as the leader in the next era of global tourism. The West fears this, not only for economic reasons, but also for symbolic ones. The very idea that the world's largest beach hotel will not be in Miami, Dubai, or the French Riviera, but on African soil, shatters stereotypes that have been carefully constructed for centuries. For too long, Africa was framed as a place to escape from, not to escape to. This project flips that script entirely. It challenges every traveler, every investor, and every policymaker to reconsider what Africa represents. The symbolic value extends into the geopolitical arena. African leaders across the continent are now watching Traoré's project with keen interest, many of them realizing that they too can pursue large-scale infrastructure that bypasses Western gatekeepers. The domino effect could be profound. If Burkina Faso, a country often dismissed as peripheral, can spearhead such a global initiative, what excuse remains for larger African economies not to dream big? The ripple effect of inspiration may be even more powerful than the hotel itself. Critics, of course, argue that such ambition carries risks. They point to the possibility of cost overruns, mismanagement, or geopolitical backlash. But Traoré seems to have anticipated these challenges. By diversifying investment sources and insisting on transparency in procurement, he reduces the risk of corruption. By integrating local communities, he ensures grassroots support. And by aligning with non-Western partners, he mitigates the risk of Western sabotage. In essence, he is not only building a hotel, but also building a model of how Africa can pursue mega projects without falling into old traps. The reactions from ordinary Africans have been overwhelmingly positive. Social media is filled with pride, with young people in particular celebrating the fact that Africa will now host a project that eclipses anything found in the West. Memes, music, and art are already circulating online, framing the hotel as a symbol of Africa's rise. For many, it represents a long overdue shift where Africans no longer look outward for validation, but inward for pride. It is also worth considering the cultural dimension of this development. Traoré has emphasized that the hotel will not simply import foreign cultural standards, but will highlight African traditions in design, cuisine, and entertainment. Guests will experience Africa not as a backdrop, but as the main attraction. This approach ensures that the economic benefits are matched by cultural empowerment, allowing Africa to define itself on its own terms rather than being defined by others. Looking forward, the implications of this project are vast. Economically, it will generate billions in revenue, reduce unemployment, and strengthen regional integration. Politically, it will bolster Traoré's position as a leader who not only resists Western dominance, but actively builds alternatives. Globally, it will challenge perceptions of Africa and force the world to acknowledge the continent's potential. For the West, the project represents a nightmare scenario, Africa prospering without Western oversight. For Africa, it is a dream finally materializing self-sufficiency, pride, and global relevance. Whether one supports or opposes Traoré, one cannot deny that his vision is reshaping the conversation about Africa's future. The world's largest beach hotel is not merely a building, it is a symbol of defiance, ambition, and transformation. And so, as construction progresses and the world watches, one truth becomes undeniable. Africa is no longer waiting for permission to rise. Leaders like Ibrahim Traoré are ensuring that the continent takes bold steps that shock, inspire, and redefine global expectations. The world's largest beach hotel in Africa may be a surprise today, but it is also a sign of what is to come. A continent stepping into its power, unapologetically and irreversibly.